Good afternoon, everyone. Uh, the today's topic, which was given to me, is about the anti-diabetic medication. Very vast topic, very difficult to cover in such a short time. I will be giving the brief overview of what are the common anti-diabetic medication we use in our day-to-day clinical practice. So before going into the medication, we have to understand the pathophysiology which is occurring behind the type 2 diabetes. Previously, it was only very few pathophysiological defects were identified, but now we are finding many new pathophysiological defect, and depending on each defect, we have different molecules which are acting on a different level of this pathophysiological defect. Starting from the beta cell dysfunction, there is a decrease in the insulin secretion, alpha cell dysfunction leading to increase in the glucagon secretion. Also, there is a defect in the incretin effect, insulin resistance, which is present at the level of liver, muscle, and the adipose tissue. Also, at the level of kidney, there is the increased reabsorption of glucose, and at the neurotransmitter dysfunction, that is the central level defect. So, with the different anti-diabetic medication, we try to address each of these pathophysiological defect by different mechanisms. So broadly, we can classify our anti-diabetic medication into different groups. The first group is the medication which increases the insulin secretion that are insulin secretagogues. In this group, we have sulfonylurea, glinides, and DPP-4 inhibitor. The difference between sulfonylurea, glinides, and DPP-4 inhibitor is that DPP-4 inhibitor causes the glucose-dependent insulin release. So only when there is a blood glucose level is high, it causes insulin secretion. As compared to that, sulfonylurea and glinide causes glucose-independent insulin secretion, and therefore the risk of hypoglycemia is associated with sulfonylurea and glinides. Another group of medications are the insulin sensitizer. We have metformin and pioglitazone, age-old medication. They work very well in majority of diabetic patients, and it requires unless contraindicated. The newer groups is this insulin independent, whether body is producing insulin or not, whether the beta cell function is present or not, these molecules will work. And in this group, we have two medication. One is the alpha glucosidase inhibitor. These are the molecule which decreases the carbohydrate absorption from the gut, and it causes the excretion of glucose in the stool. And the newer class of medication, that is the SGLT2 inhibitor, which causes the excretion of glucose in the urine. Whatever the excess glucose is present in the blood, that will be passed through the urine. And last but not the least is the injectables, insulin, as well as the newer injectable, that is the GLP-1 receptor analogs. So this is the brief overview of all of the medication. First of all, metformin, as I already mentioned, it works at the level of insulin resistance. Primarily, it acts at the hepatic insulin resistance, and thereby it reduces the hepatic glucose output. Hepatic glucose output is the major responsible for the fasting blood glucose, and therefore with the metformin, we expect to reduce the fasting blood glucose more. Overall, it is weight neutral, minimum risk of hypoglycemia, inexpensive. The specific disadvantage which are there with the metformin is the GI side effect. Very few of the patients out of many in which we prescribe metformin, they experience some GI disturbances, especially the upper GI disturbances are more common with the immediate release formulation, and lower GI disturbances like diarrhea or constipation are more common with the sustained release preparations. Another very rare but still the risk of lactic acidosis is there, and therefore its use should be limited in patients who are having hypotension, hypoxia, or chronic kidney disease. In this kind of patient, the risk of lactic acidosis is high, and therefore it should be avoided. Another common side effect is the B12 deficiency. Those patients who are taking metformin for a longer period of time, they develop B12 deficiency, and they may require B12 supplementation. The specific contraindication which are there with the metformin is that the renal insufficiency, whenever the estimated GFR goes below 45, the maximum dose should be reduced to half, that is 1 gram. And if GFR is less than 30, then metformin should be discontinued and it should be avoided. The other group is the alpha glucosidase inhibitor. As I already mentioned, it causes decreased absorption of glucose from the gut. We have two molecules which are commonly used. One is the acarbose. The brand name is Glucobay and Voglibose. Many different brands are available. The common dose is 25 to 50 milligram for acarbose thrice daily. Because it causes decreased glucose absorption from the gut, it needs to be taken with every meal, and it has to be taken before each meal, because it will work in the only meal in which it has been taken. The common side effect which are happening with this alpha glucosidase inhibitor is again GI disturbances like flatulence and the increased frequency of stool. Another group is the DPP-4 inhibitor, very safe molecule, causes glucose-dependent insulin release. Different molecules which are available: alogliptin, saxagliptin, sitagliptin, Vilda, Lina. All are very safe, well tolerated, minimum side effect. The only thing needs to be taken care is that some of the patient develop skin rashes or some allergic reaction with the DPP-4 inhibitor. And if any patient is having this kind of reaction after starting this molecule, it needs to be addressed. Sulfonylurea and glinides, though very potent molecule, very efficacious, but the risk of hypoglycemia is high. Different brands available with us, majority are in combination with either metformin or in form of triple drug combination, either with metformin and pioglitazone or metformin and voglibose. The latest class of medication, that is the SGLT2 inhibitor, very wonderful drug. Three molecules which are currently available in India are canagliflozin, dapagliflozin, and empagliflozin. They not only work in diabetes, but it has also very good effect on heart and kidneys, also reduces the risk of heart failure. However, it needs to be used very cautiously because the risk of urinary tract infection, genital infection, and hypotension is high. Whenever these molecules are prescribed, patients should be advised to take adequate hydration, and proper genital hygiene should be explained. Pioglitazone, again, wonderful drug. Only risk is the weight gain and the fluid overload, and it should be avoided in patients with heart failure stage 3 and 4. The injectable GLP-1 analogs, they are the very recent and advanced molecules. Currently available are liraglutide and dulaglutide with us. In future, we will be having oral semaglutide with us. Very good effect on blood glucose as well as the weight loss. The liraglutide which is available, it is a daily injection, 0.6 to 1.8 milligram daily. And the dulaglutide is once weekly injection. Many of the patients who have fear of injection, who don't want to start injection, but they require very potent molecule, they definitely offer this molecule which is once weekly, and patient can achieve better glycemic control. And the last slide, this is the long list of insulins which are available with us, starting with the short-acting insulin, which are the analogs, insulin aspart, which is the Fiasp, and Novorapid, which with us, insulin Lispro, Humalog, and Glulysin, that is Epidra. This analog insulin needs to be taken immediately before meal. The regular human insulin, which we are commonly using, either human insulin R or Actrapid, they needs to be given at least 30 minutes before meal. The long-acting insulin, we have basal insulin, Lantus, Tresiba, even the latest generation concentrated insulin U300 Glargine, that is Toujeo. They are 24-hour working medicine. And also this insulin are available in a combination, that is the premixed form also. This is the overview that how we approach to our patient, where previously it was that patient, the molecules are chosen depending on the patient profile. Right now we have clear-cut guideline that when the ASCVD or heart failure or CKD are present, patient should be offered the benefits of SGLT2 inhibitor or GLP-1 analog. Also in patients in whom hypoglycemia needs to be avoided, the molecules which cause hypoglycemia, specifically the sulfonylurea, needs to be avoided. Thank you. Thank you for your kind attention.